Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to create a double easel card. No special dies required, really easy to do, and I'll give you all the instructions. And we're going to be using a brand new stamp set from Art Impressions, and I'll give you a closer look at that a little bit later on. Let's get started by creating the card base. I've got some craft 100-pound cardstock, and I've got it cut down to 9.5 inches by 4 3/4 inch. And I'm going to score that at 4 3/4. We're going to be making a square card today. So this will be a double easel card. So this is the base of the card. And then I went ahead and folded that. And now we're going to create the double easel panel for the front of the card. And this measures 9 inches by 4.5 inches. And we're going to score this in two different places. We're going to score at 4.5, which is halfway across the card. And then we'll score half of that at 2 1/4 inch. So let's go ahead and fold the card in half. And then we'll fold this front flap in half again. And that will give us the little Z-fold portion for our double easel card. This will get glued right on the center of the front of our card. And you can see that little Z-fold design. Before we assemble this to our card base, let's add the layers. This measures 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and this panel will measure 4 1/4 by 2 inches, and then this one will be the same as that one, 4 1/4 by 2 inches. And then I did cut an extra one, that'll be the ground for the top panel. So I cut an extra one that same size. This is the paper pack I'm using. The Halloween paper pack. You can see that I've grabbed some of the papers from here. Later on we'll be using that orange polka dot paper. And then I also use paper from the Halloween journal paper pack, and that's that spider web design. These are all double-sided papers. And let's go ahead and set this one aside. This one we're going to be cutting down a little bit later on, but for now we'll just set that aside and add our layers. I'm using the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and then I'm just going to center these on each of these sections of the card. And you do want to make sure you line it up so those edges are, or the distance on each side is equal all the way down. So you just kind of want to take a look at that as you're lining up those little pieces. So now this can be assembled to the front of our card. I'm using plenty of adhesive. Make sure this stays down nicely. You could also use a double-sided tape here, but the glue does give me a little time to move things around. So you can see we have our little double easel card base. So it's really simple and easy to do, and no dies required to complete that, so I love that. Let's take a look at this stamp set that I showed you before. This is the brand new Spooky Crew stamp set from Art Impressions, and look at all these little images. I love these little critters so much. There's even a little frog. You get a little hat and the little top of the pumpkins as well, and it does come with the coordinating dies. I'll just use those steel die cutters to cut those apart. Let's go ahead and ink up our stamps using the Versafine Onyx black ink, and I'm just pressing that out with the Stampendable stamp press. And I've stamped onto some Strathmore Bristol smooth cardstock. For coloring, I'm using yellow, orange, light brown, and warm gray number 6. And that's to color in my little pumpkins. I colored those others off camera, but I colored them all the exact same way. And I'll show you this one. I did later on come in and do a little bit more blending on those pumpkins up above there. I thought they needed a little bit more blending. But I got the basic coloring done, and you can always come in and add more shading and blending later on. So I started with the yellow. I added a little bit of the orange, but just to give these a little bit more of an aged look or a little bit darker look, I added some of that light brown. We are going to have a starry sky, so I thought it's a little bit more evening, so I tried to darken up my colors a little bit, just to give it kind of more of that spooky feeling. And keep in mind, these little critters can be used for anything. The way they're popping out of the little pumpkins, is great, but you could also have them just cut away the pumpkin. You could have them popping out of a little mug or a little pot of flowers or whatever you want. So do keep in mind that you can use these for several other projects. And then I'm just going to that warm gray to add a little black behind or in the mouth and in the eyes as well. Now with beige and mid brown, we'll color in this spooky tree. It does have a little door on it, which is just so cute. I won't show you the whole tree, but I started with the beige and then I added the mid brown for a little bit of shadowing. And I love these two colors together. They create a really nice balance of the browns and you get some really nice shading with this. So I'll go ahead and add some of that mid brown here and there and just pull that in. And by the way, these are the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, and I'm using my blender pen to do my blending, but you could use a water brush here if you prefer. I just find the blender pen is a little easier to use. I have a little bit more control. I don't have to worry about how much water I have like when you're using a water brush, but either way would work just great. So I finished the rest of that tree up off camera. And then for that little door, I went back to that beige and I just used that beige, a couple layers of the beige to add some shadowing, and I used violet on the little doorknob. And then the Bordeaux red for the roof. And I just love this color. I think this is one of my new favorite colors. I don't use it that often, but I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm adding that to the roof. Again, I kind of wanted to keep to a little bit darker colors because I have a night sky that we created with that little starry background. And then for the ground, we're going to be using that gray with the spider webs. So I want to give it that kind of eerie feeling. With warm gray number 6, again, I'm going to do just right along that roof line. And I'm just kind of adding the color and then kind of pulling it in towards the center. Now all of the products I'm using today are listed and linked down below and also on my blog. So you can check there for anything that you see me using today. I do try to show you the products as we're going along so you know exactly what I'm using and exactly where I got all of these items from. I went back to that Bordeaux red to color in the door. And I'm just adding a little shadowing to that. Later on I'll show you we're going to use some of the dies. This does come with dies, but we're going to use another set of dies from Art Impressions. And we're going to die cut some little ghosts and also some bats and some little wrought iron fences. So that's going to just kind of bring everything together and really adds that spooky effect. So I'm adding that same Bordeaux red to those little shutters. And then the next color I want to grab, or the two colors, will be the light gray and the gray. And that'll be to do the little stone fireplace. I'm just adding that gray for a little bit of contrast just to give those a little bit more depth. And then I'll do that same coloring technique down below, right along the base of the house. Back to the beige and mid brown to color in the basic part of the little house. I'll start with that beige and then I'll add the mid brown and then just kind of pull those two colors together. Now to clean your blender pen, you just scribble it onto some scrap paper until it goes clear, and then you're good to change to the next color. And if by chance you do go over the lines with your coloring, what's really nice with the blender is take the clean blender pen and just dab at that color and pick it up. You can pick it up off the cardstock and then pick it up and scribble it onto your scrap paper. If it's still there, go back and pick it up again. And it's really nice. It's really pretty forgiving. Now with the mid brown, I'm going to do the little panes around each of the windows, and I'm also going to do around that front door with the mid brown as well, just to have a little bit darker color there, a little contrast from the main part of the house. So I'm going to do all those little window sills same exact way. And then with that mid brown, I'm going to do the front porch. Just again, keeping that a little bit darker. I'll put the color on each side and just kind of pull in towards the center. And then with the light gray, I'll do the little hinges on the door and the handle. With pale yellow, I'm just going to brighten up those windows a little bit. And then with light pink, light gray, and gray, let's go ahead and color this little mouse. This little mouse is so sweet. And again, keep in mind that you can use this for other projects. So don't just think it's Halloween. You can just use the top of this mouse, cut away that pumpkin, and really have some fun with these. I'm thinking of that with the little frog. I love that little frog. I could use that frog in a little scene, like a pond scene. Maybe have him hiding behind some little bushes or hedges or something. I don't know. I just kind of have that in my head. So again, just think of these so that it's not just for Halloween. I like to use sets that I know that I can use for other things. And this one certainly falls in that category. With the gray, I'm adding some shadowing. And then you can go back once you're done and just kind of lighten up those cheeks a little bit if you want to, or just blend those out a little bit better. I like to add the cheek color first. That way I don't forget to add it and I don't blend it in with the other color too much. Now I've got two different shades of green. I've got May green and dark green, and of course I use that light pink on the cheeks of all of these little critters. I didn't want the frog to be too bright, so that's why I brought in that dark green. And I'm just going to blend that out, keep the center of these little faces the lightest. And then we'll add a little bit more to these little fingers, which are going to get covered. Oh, we're also going to be die cutting some leaves from another die set, and we're going to be adding those to our little scene as well. Now I'm going to be using all of the critters in this set for today's card, but I did want to mention that you certainly don't need to do that. You could create the same design card with just one of the little critters. You could do the little house and add that tree and one of the critters under the tree, so that if you don't want to do all of this coloring, you certainly don't have to. This card would be just as cute, and you could add a little sentiment to the front panel. We're going to be adding our sentiment towards the middle of the card so that when you pull it open, you'll see the Happy Halloween sentiment. And again, that's going to be coming from one of those die sets I mentioned earlier, and I will show you both of those as we're going along. And this little kitten I colored in, so cute. And then let's do the owl last with the mustard and the brown. Now you could certainly do this in some more like gray tones if you wanted to. I was trying to bring in a little bit more of these brown tones because I am going to be using that craft color cardstock for my card base. So I kind of wanted to keep bringing in that brown tone just to make everything kind of coordinate together. But again, certainly you could change that out and do some more grays, dark grays, light grays on this little owl. So you can see I had already added the little pink cheeks, and I'm going to add that lighter color. And then for that beak, I'm going to add a little bit of orange. And under those eyes, I'm going to add a little bit of the light gray, just to give those a little bit of a shadow. And there's that orange. Just put a little on the base of the beak and just kind of pull that out. Once all our coloring is done, let's go ahead and grab some Post-it tape. I'm going to tape down the dies, and we'll run those through the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. And then look how cute these are. Even that little mouse, the little detail on that tail is just adorable. And look at the detail on that tree as well. So let's go back to this panel, and I want to create the ground for my scene. And I thought that piece was a little bit too high. I'm going to cut that down just a little bit. It was 2 inches. I'm going to cut it down to 1.5 inches. You could use either side on this. I was kind of debating about that. That striped side is kind of cute as well. But I thought I would stick to the little spider webs. I'm going to glue that right along the edge of that starry paper. And then let's go ahead and add our little house, our little spooky house. And I want to make sure that enough of that will show when our card is closed. So I'm making sure to put that up pretty high on the card. And I don't know if you can hear the thunder in the background. I apologize for that, but it is crazy here today. And there's so much thunder. I haven't seen lightning yet, and I really hope I don't. I don't like lightning. But if you hear that rumbling in the background, that's what that is, and I do apologize for that. With the little tree, that's going to be sticking up over top. So I did add a little bit of glue, and you don't want to add glue up above that line. And I did by accident, so I wiped a little bit of that away. You don't want your card to get stuck closed. Same thing with the little frog. I didn't put any glue right at the top of his fingers there. And then for the mouse, that's mostly going to be on the base of the card. But again, you want to be careful. Any portion of it that's sticking up over the top, you don't want to put glue. I've got my little foam squares from scrapbook.com, and these are really easy to use. Just going to layer up quite a few of them on the back. I've got my little Cricut weeding tool so I can pop off those backings really quickly, and then we'll pop this one up. So anything on this front lower panel can be popped up. Now, the Halloween journal set is the one that I mentioned earlier. We're going to die cut that Happy Halloween, the little fence, and some of those little ghosts. And you can see that once I'm die cutting, I just die cut a whole bunch of stuff. I like to just have them ready to go. So I sat and die cut for a while and just die cut a whole bunch of these little items. So now I'm going to add a little bit of glue. I cut that down and I'm going to tuck it right in front. And then I also wanted to add that fence inside the scene as well as the little sentiment. So for the Happy Halloween, I die cut it from that orange polka dot paper that I mentioned to you earlier. And then I also die cut a second one from some black 100-pound cardstock. And I'm going to glue these two together. That'll give me just a little bit of dimension on the inside of the card, but I didn't want too much because I don't want it to get too bulky. So let's pop this inside right down here in the bottom right-hand corner. And again, if you're only using one critter on the front of the card, you could certainly just put that sentiment right in the front. Now, these are the little ghosts. And you can see that I added a little piece of black cardstock. After I die cut them, I thought the background needed to be black. I didn't want that purple background to show through. So I just cut a little piece of scrap black paper and I glued it behind the eyes on each of these little ghosts. So let's go ahead and add these. I'm going to pop up the ones that are not behind that panel, so I can add some dimension to anything that's above this little fold-out panel. And I don't know if you can hear it now, but it's pouring rain at my house. This is crazy. This goes well with a spooky card, I guess. So the weather is appropriate for this little spooky card. Now I'm going to glue in the ghost, and again, I want to just be careful where that glue is. I don't want it to come through the other side of the top of the tree. And let's go ahead and add 3 little bats. That set had 2 different sizes in it, and I love when you get multiple sizes of something. So I'm going to use one of the larger ones and 2 of the smaller ones. And a little bit later on, we'll add a little bit of Stella to those, just to make those, give those a little bit of glitter. But you could also use your glitter cardstock for these, and that would be cute too. You could also use your glitter cardstock for the little ghosts. That would be really cute. So once I had those glued down, I'm going to add a little bit more of that fence, and I'm just cutting it down to size. And we'll line that up right along that purple cardstock. And we'll let that dry. Now I've got one more ghost that I wanted to add down here next to the sentiment so that it didn't look too plain down there. With the warm, smooth cardstock from scrapbook.com, I'm going to cut a whole bunch of these leaves. And these are the Harvest Journal die set. And what I did is I already die cut and colored in a bunch of these, but I wanted to quickly show you what I did. So I die cut from a bunch of those different colors from that little paper pack. And I've got a little tiny blending brush, and I'm adding some ground espresso ink around the edges. I've got my little sculpting mat and my tool, and I'm going to add a few little veins to each of these leaves. So really quick and easy to do. I did a whole bunch of those. Again, I like to make a bunch of extras when I'm doing this so that I have them for another project. And now I'm just going to glue a few of those leaves onto the card. Just going to tuck a few in behind the little pumpkins, just for a little bit more color and to kind of ground these pumpkins a little bit better. And I love the colors. It just adds such nice colors. And those little paper pads from scrapbook.com are really great because you get all like a multitude of tones of the same color. So it makes it really easy if you're trying to do kind of like an ombre card or something like that. You kind of have all the colors that you would need. So those are great little paper packs. And let's tuck a few more leaves in. Again, this just kind of grounds our card and adds a little bit more color down here. Not that we didn't have a lot of color, but just kind of wanted to pop in a little bit more of those fall colors. We'll add one more. And then I do want to add one to the hand, the little frog's hand. I thought it would be cute to look like he's just kind of like catching the leaves as they're coming down. So I'm just going to pop one in his little hand. These little scenes are so much fun to create. So many ideas, so many things you can do. But again, you can keep it really simple if you want to. I did decide to do the inside of the card. I used that same paper pack, the same little ghost, and that same set that had the little ghosts in it that said boo. It was a die in that set that says boo, so I die cut that out of some black cardstock and completed the inside of the card. I've got my Wink of Stella glitter pen, and I'm adding it here and there. And I am going to add it to this sentiment just to give it a little bit of sparkle. So let's take a closer look at the finished card. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. I really do appreciate you guys joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's card. And again, keep it simple if you want to, but I just thought it would be fun to show you this cute little double easel card. And once you know how to create that card base, you could do several different projects with this. So thanks so much for joining me today. Really do appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.